Can you explain what internet is?
That little mark with the A and then the ring around it?
At?
See, that's what I said. Kay said she thought it was about.
Yeah. Oh.
The information superhighway can be a confusing mix of on-ramps and off-ramps.
The internet starts as a military communication network in the 60s and spends the next 20 years being further developed in university computer science labs. But it was the creation of the World Wide Web in 1990, a series of web pages connected by hyperlinks that made the internet become something that the average person can use.
Your link to literature, the arts, the world at your fingertips.
The free transfer of information in as accessible a way as possible. We're going to make it so that anybody can access anything from anywhere. I was like, well, that's kind of a cool idea.
And who better to latch onto a cool new idea than baby boomers Bill Clinton and Al Gore? When they get elected in 1993, the World Wide Web is at the center of their proposed tech-based economy.
Eisenhower had built the interstate highway system. Well, Clinton and Gore were going to bring in the age of the information superhighway.
Clinton makes good on his promise, but he gets some much-needed help from a company that builds an on-ramp to this new digital future. The company is founded in 1994 by Mark Andreessen, a 23-year-old computer science grad from the University of Illinois, and Jim Clark, an established Silicon Valley entrepreneur.
Jim Clark became convinced in talking to Mark that the internet space was wide open for the taking. Yeah, this thing that was right now being used for scientific purposes could potentially be used for commercial purposes. He could envision that we might want to sell things. He could envision that it could be used for, widespread communication.
In the early 90s, the web is slow and hard to navigate. It's the domain of academics and computer geeks. But Clark and Andreessen have a vision to make the web accessible to everyone.
We ended up sort of in the middle of the night starting this project. What we were trying to do was put sort of a human face on the internet.
True to its namesake, the browser is a navigator to the web, making surfing as easy as point and click.
Netscape Navigator was the first commercial version of a web browser that spawned Apple Safari, it spawned Google Chrome.
All of a sudden, the power of the internet that had been there for years was available to everybody in an easy way, point and click, the universal language.
Netscape was foundational. This wasn't just a nice to have. Having the browser was absolutely essential to internet commerce, for entertainment, for communication, all these things.
With Netscape recruiting employees fresh out of college, traditional workplace culture of tech giants like IBM is getting replaced. Geeks run this startup, and they write the rules as they go.
Imagine going into a frat house that has an adult living there. And that adult is Jim Clark. And Jim Clark is trying to help a bunch of young college boys figure out that they're now doing something that has to be ready for business.
One of the engineers I worked with brought in a remote-controlled car and attached a very early remote camera on it. Didn't work very well. We had little traditions like saving our cans and building things out of them. We had a massive rubber ball fight. We really kind of made it a space that we enjoyed being in.
There was a lot of silliness going on, but also a lot of hard work.
Netscape, people got into work and maybe didn't go home that night, maybe worked all the way through the night.
I have a nice couch, little mattress under there I can sleep in.
Work became the life, and that was sort of the only life you had. That tied into that concept of sort of manic innovation.
Yeah, what's your doctor say, Tara?
My doctor says, interestingly enough, that I work too much.
The web's ruled by the under-30 set. In '94, 30-year-old Jeff Bezos creates Amazon out of his garage. The same year, Yahoo, a searchable web directory, is launched by 20-somethings Jerry Yang and David Filo.
Yahoo had an exclamation point at the end of its name. Like, it was Yahoo exclamation point. Like, that was the way you had to print it in the newspaper. So this playfulness with the front men, kind of these young, geeky types that clearly weren't the popular jocks in high school.
We are trying to get him into long pants. And I have threatened, I don't know how many times.
Mark represented sort of this is what's coming. It's not this polished, suit and tie kind of thing.
Andreessen's rise from geeky undergraduate to tech rock star is whispered about in Silicon Valley. But his story goes mainstream when he lands the cover of Time magazine.
A year into Netscape, Time magazine saw how exciting all of this was and how perfect of a face Mark Andreessen was. Young and nerdy, perfect for the moment. So they came up with this idea of putting him on a throne, kind of looking like a guy who just came out of college. And he had no shoes on. He was evidently the first person to appear on a cover of Time magazine with bare feet.